Okay, I'm going to briefly explain what's on this video. I'm going to show you the Sky News report and interview with Steve Bannon about Hunter Biden's laptop. And I like Sky News mostly because you only get unbiased reporting if you get it from overseas, and Sky News is from Australia. I'm going to also present the recording of Hunter Biden. And I'm going to also include in this compilation the Tucker Carlson interview with Bob Lusky. Now, a lot of this information I already knew about because I've read some of Peter Schweizer's books, but these late-breaking things are just evidence of what we already know about how corrupt Joe Biden is and how he sold the country out to China, and he's received bribes through proxy by using his family members.
But first tonight, in what could be a watershed moment in the US election, this week the New York Post splashed with news of a trove of emails detailing Joe Biden's son's business dealings overseas. The emails reveal Hunter Biden had planned to introduce his father, who was of course then vice president, to an executive at a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma, a company where Hunter served on the board of directors. Publicly, Biden has said he's never spoken to his son about his overseas business dealings. But these emails seem to indicate otherwise. In one message sent by Vadim Pazarski in April 2015, he wrote, "Dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC and giving me an opportunity to meet your father and spend some time together. It's really an honor and pleasure." Another message, also sent by Vadim in May 2014, asks Hunter for, and quote, "advice on how you could use your influence to benefit the company." The emails and many more involving a Chinese energy company, which we will get into in the interview with Steve Bannon, were recovered from a laptop that was reportedly dropped off at a repair shop in Delaware in 2019 before it was handed over to the FBI. It was said to be a water-damaged MacBook Pro, and the person who dropped it off never paid for the service, and he didn't return to retrieve it or a hard drive on which the contents were stored. This is according to the shop owner, who said he repeatedly tried to contact the client. He says that on the laptop was a sticker from the Beau Biden Foundation, which was named after Hunter's late brother, the former AG of Delaware. On the hard drive are said to be text messages, videos, 25,000 photographs, and 11,500 emails. Some are deeply personal and emotional, and others involve drug use and are quite incriminating for the Biden family. The owner of this repair shop in Biden's home state of Delaware says when he didn't hear back from the FBI, he made a copy of the hard drive and gave it, managed to find his way to Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani. Now, in the US, this has been quite a bombshell in the final leg of the presidential campaign, and not just because of the actual contents of the email, but because of the issue of censorship. Twitter has censored the New York Post story, claiming, with absolutely no proof, that the contents contained hacked material. The tech giant, of course, has allowed the spread of other stories that contain either hacked or illegally obtained material, like the president's tax returns or Melania Trump's phone calls, or even Julian Assange's many data dumps on WikiLeaks or Snowden's information. In censoring this story from a legitimate media outlet from the New York Post, Twitter is acting against the United States tradition enshrined in the Constitution of a free press. It is a deeply dangerous precedent. Now, a crucial player in this whole saga of Hunter Biden's laptop is Trump's former campaign manager and White House chief strategist, Steve Bannon. Bannon was the person who first alerted the New York Post to the existence of this drive in late September. He joined me earlier today to discuss this from New York. Steve, thank you so much for your time tonight. The trove of data that's emerged here is extensive. It includes Hunter Biden's text messages, videos, 25,000 photographs, 11,500 emails. When and how did you first hear about this?
This was Mayor Rudy Giuliani. He and his lawyer were approached by the store owner after the FBI didn't come back to him. You know, Mayor Giuliani is the president's lawyer. His lawyer, Bob Costello, is a very famous prosecutor in this area, in the New York City area. The Mac store owner reached out to Bob Costello since it was abandoned property and gave the hard drive to Rudy. The mayor got me involved, as you know, Sherry, because of my interest and knowledge of the Chinese Communist Party, the many, many emails, many text messages talk about the deep financial relationship and broad financial relationship of the Biden family with the Chinese Communist Party. He brought me in for that, and then I was able to help strategize with him the best distribution and release mechanism about how to actually get this information out. So as people in Australia know, from all the infiltration that the Chinese Communist Party did into the elites in Australia through finance and through the political class, you're seeing the exact same playbook they ran in Australia as they're running in the United States with the Bidens. Joe Biden has lied about this for years, and it's pretty stunning, the information that's come off this hard drive. It's really shocked the United States.
When you first started going through this, what was your reaction to some of the information, and how long, when did you first get access to some of these emails? How long did you take going through it all?
It's probably a couple months ago that we started. I think Rudy reached out to me in late August, I think it was, to start going through this. And I was pretty shocked. I was the head of the Government Accountability Institute. I was the chairman of Peter Schweizer's group of his investigative reporters. We did Clinton Cash. After Clinton Cash, to keep the team around, we started doing the research on secret empires. That was Peter's next book. And Peter focused on the Chinese Communist Party and its infiltration and financing of the American political class. That's really what started the whole Burisma thing and really started. He found the $1.5 billion private equity partnership. So when I started going through these, what stunned me the most is how broad and deep with other CCP-controlled companies. The Bidens are in business, and I mean real business, where they're getting $10 million a year in finder's fees, plus 50% ownership of a joint venture, which is fully financed by a Chinese energy company. They get 50% of the equity, and of that, Joe Biden gets 10% right off the top. So what stunned me when I first started going through the emails is the breadth and depth of the involvement away from the $1.5 billion private equity fund he has already. And it was stunning. It was stunning, the greed. And when I look back over time, what really got me was how much Joe Biden's lied about this. I mean, Joe Biden has said categorically, my family has nothing to do, no financial relationships with China or the Chinese Communist Party. I think what we have here now, because we brought in a number of experts to look at this, we have a massive national security issue with Joe Biden and the people around him. I don't think Joe Biden today could get a security clearance. So I don't know how in 16 days he's going to stand and run to be commander-in-chief of the United States.
Just going to the detail of what the emails do show when it comes to the CCP influence on the Biden family. The New York Post has published emails showing that Hunter Biden pursued a lucrative deal, as you mentioned, involving China's largest energy company, the now bankrupt CEFC China Energy Company. And in one email, he said it would be interesting for me and my family, and he discussed remuneration packages. Why is this so significant?
Remember, the Biden campaign has not questioned any of the emails here, none of it. So what shocked me the most was that the level of detail in the joint venture we're talking about, which is on a company that's already gone bankrupt, this China Energy Company, which was incredibly controversial. The chairman's missing. He's been taken in by CCP authorities. He's missing. A lot of people say he's dead. The signator, a guy named Patrick Ho, already went to federal prison in the United States, has been extradited to Hong Kong. So what stunned me was the open greed of the Bidens. What they asked for was $10 million a year in cash money for introductions, in addition to have a joint venture that the Chinese Communist Party would fully finance, and they would get the equity upside of it. So, and this could lead to tens of millions or hundreds of millions of dollars of profit. So it was the brazenness of the Bidens when I went through these emails. And, you know, Mayor Giuliani, who's seen a lot. Remember, Mayor Giuliani was the guy that used the RICO statute to put the Wall Street guys in prison. Mike Milken, Ivan Boesky. So he's seen financial white-collar crime, corruption before. I think it's safe to say that he was pretty stunned also.
Look, another one of the emails, this was the first to be released by the New York Post, showed that Hunter Biden was trying to organize a dinner for his father, Joe Biden, who was, of course, then vice president, with executives from the Ukrainian energy company Burisma, where he was employed. And at the time, you know, we all know this already, Biden had threatened to withhold $1 billion in aid for Ukraine unless the top prosecutor, Viktor Shokin, was fired. And he was fired Ukraine officials decided, they made that call. They fired him in order to get the money. At the time, he was investigating Burisma. So, Steve, does this lead to the suggestion, do you think, that Biden may have corruptly used American foreign policy as leverage to enrich his family? I mean, that's the accusation that's emerged this week.
I don't think there's any doubt about it. Remember, if for an American audience, Joe Biden has been adamant on the Burisma in the Ukraine. He did nothing. He never talked to his son. He didn't know anything about it. The stunning thing about these emails, and then actually the Biden camp admitting something, this is very important. The thing is about these emails is that Biden has basically said to the American people, I knew nothing about it. Now we actually see with the meeting set up. At first, what they came and had the mainstream media spin is that there's nothing in his official records to show this. They've actually copped to the fact of, well, maybe he had a cup of coffee or maybe it was an informal meeting. So this is going to be, that sets the predicate that Joe Biden has lied consistently over the last couple of years to the American people. He lied on the debate stage with President Trump. What the Fox did, which was very interesting on that issue, but also on the Chinese, they actually went to the people on the emails and contacted them. What was so stunning is that they reported last night that one of the guys in the email said, absolutely, the meetings happened. This is not off of some Russia intelligence operation. That email's correct. The meeting's correct. And by the way, the 10% of the equity is Joe Biden. So you're starting to see other people come in here and validate this. It's pretty stunning. For the Australian audience, just remember one thing. Joe Biden for years has sat there categorically. My family has not participated in China or has any relationships with anything in China. That's all lies, all discredited. He has said the Burisma thing is all a lie. I don't know anything about it. He stood on a debate stage and spent 3 minutes fighting with President Trump and said it again. So the predicate's been set. Joe Biden's a liar, a stone cold liar. That's what these emails and this other information that's coming out right now show.
Look, it is worth reiterating, and I know you just said it, but Hunter Biden's lawyer and Joe Biden's campaign team have not denied the legitimacy or the substance of these emails. They have issued no denials at all, no legal threats, nothing. And yet Twitter this week censored the New York Post story. And not only did they censor the story, but they suspended the accounts of people who were sharing the story. This is a legitimate story from a legitimate media outlet. Steve, does this effectively end the American tradition of a free press, something that is actually in your Constitution?
I think for every nation that is part of the Alliance of Liberty, we're in a crisis right now because of social media. Remember, let's go back on this. Number one, not only the Biden campaign has not come out and refuted any of the emails, not one. People on the email chain has come out and said those are actual emails. It's to me, and this actually happened, and that's fact. Okay, so we know that. In addition, we haven't released what we've talked about. Hunter Biden's lawyer has come to us both with phone calls and with emails saying, "Hey, I've got to get the hard drive back." This is not some Russian intelligence operation. They admit it's their hard drive. So the mainstream media spins this. The issue about social media shutting it down, Twitter and Facebook, and by the way, the New York Post Twitter feed still shut down today. We're Saturday. We're late Saturday here in New York, where we're working away putting this thing together for tomorrow and Monday. It's still shut down. That newspaper was founded by Alexander Hamilton back in, I think, in the 18th century. It's a tabloid, but I think it's the third or fourth biggest paper in the country and a very respected paper as far as the reporting goes. And it's owned by Rupert Murdoch, who is, if not the most powerful media mogul in the United States, one of the most powerful, and certainly one of the most powerful in the world. So this is not a war room pandemic. Right? Or this is not Sherry Markson. They are coming for the biggest guys in the world, and they just shut it down, and they're in your face about it. I have said that unless we break social media's hold on this today, over this weekend and early next week, the president's never going to get a fair election. They're going to take down everything that says the president wins. They're going to take down everything that says the president's leading. Jack Dorsey, Zuckerberg, and the guys at Google, to me, the Justice Department should go in and shut it down on Monday. If they don't shut it down, throw them in jail. They have taken these oligarchs in Silicon Valley are out of control. We don't have free speech in this country. They took down the White House press secretary the other day. They went right to the White House and took down the commander in chief of the armed forces of the United States because they deemed behind the screen that something was inaccurate. And what they said about being accurate is a stone cold lie. They said it was hacked material. Nobody says hacked material. This comes off a hard drive. It's absolutely absurd. The Biden campaign hasn't argued it's hacked. The lawyer for Hunter Biden has said it's hacked. We can show you in fact, the FBI and the smart people at the New York Post that work for Murdoch have it. It's not hacked. That's just a lie, and yet they took it down. This is a crisis because this shows the power they have to basically shut down conversation.
Steve, I want to ask you more about the hacking allegations from Twitter in a minute, but I just want to pick you up on something you said there that I haven't heard before and sounded really extraordinary, which is that Hunter Biden's lawyer has contacted you guys to ask for the return of the hard drive. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're breaking news here on your show. He actually, in a panic, called because Hunter, when he dropped it off, was drunk. There's like 2 or 3 of these shops in Wilmington. They called around, and he figured out it might be this guy. He called him, and when the guy says, hey, I kind of don't remember, I'm going back to my shop, he sent a couple of emails in panic saying, I got to get my hands on this right away. So no, we haven't released that yet. We're holding that back to make sure that if they walk into the trap, we're just going to drop it on them, right? Because this is just lies. Right now, the mainstream media, here's the beauty. My training under Andrew Breitbart was put it out, let them lie, and then bang, drop them on the lie. Let them lie some more, drop it again. What you're seeing is a full meltdown by the American elite trying to spin the Russia narrative. Look, Russia's a sideshow to a sideshow. As you know, Sherry, having been on our show, and we love you because of all the breaking news you give us out of Australia, the central existential threat to free people throughout the world is the Chinese Communist Party. I don't need to tell Australians how insidious it is. And this is not the Chinese people. They're the most decent, hardworking people on earth. It's the Chinese Communist Party and what they try to do to infiltrate democracies in the West. That's what you're seeing here. And this is another part of the elites bought off. And so the media is spinning the Russian narrative, which is ridiculous. This is about the Chinese Communist Party. And you're seeing now they're going to have to come to grips with the fact there's no hacked material here. This comes off a hard drive.
So you've got the emails from Hunter Biden's lawyer saying, can we have that hard drive back? What date are those emails?
It's basically, I think it's Thursdays, the day that we were coming out with the first story in the New York Post. It might have been Wednesday. So it's the night before we came out with the first story. I think because the New York Post went to them for comment and said, hey, we've got these emails. And they saw the emails and they went, oh, my God, look what they've got. They have the real emails of us setting up these deals. They panicked. And when he panicked, what he did is started to call. I'm sure that Hunter, the Biden campaign I'm sure they lit Hunter up. Like, what happened here? How did these guys get your hard drive, get your computer? And this is when the lawyer started calling around, and this is when he sent the emails. We just kind of sat on it because said, we want them to go more into the Russia thing. We want the mainstream media because it just brings out what liars they are. We have the emails from the lawyer. If we need to release them, we'll release them.
Look, Steve Bannon, other media outlets are refusing to report this story, and when they do report it, they're questioning, with no evidence for this, of course, they're questioning whether this was actually a hack of Hunter Biden's iCloud and the information was then uploaded to a laptop. They point to the fact that they say there's no metadata attached to the emails. When you first heard about this, when you were first contacted by Rudy Giuliani, did you think this was possible, that this might not be Hunter Biden's laptop? It could have been, a hack of his iCloud and then the data uploaded to the laptop by a foreign agent, which is what's being reported by the critics or the cynics of this. Did you consider that was a possibility?
This is a stupid defense. Absolutely. We went through all that. And more importantly, a company owned by Rupert Murdoch, the lawyers in the company went through this substantially. The technicians went through it substantially. They've got the metadata. That's all nonsense. That's a bunch of guys on MSNBC and CNN trying to be the Praetorian Guard for the Biden campaign. Of course, they saw the metadata. You think Rupert Murdoch's going to expose himself to lawsuits? And by the way, why hasn't the Biden campaign sued New York Post? Why haven't they sued him? Why haven't they tried to stop it? You know why? Because the countersuit that they would get in discovery would expose everything. The Biden campaign hasn't done anything here because they know those are the emails. We got it from the lawyer. It's a hard drive. It wasn't uploaded and any single email was dropped in here. Oh, the bad thing was really placed in here. That's nonsense.
We've even seen that some Republicans have come out to question what they say is the unlikeliness of the repairman story, that Hunter Biden forgot to pick his laptops up from a repairman, and they say that the timing of this is all too convenient with Biden so far ahead in the polls. What's your response to this? Did you have early concerns about the fact that Hunter Biden might have forgotten to pick up water-damaged laptops from a repairman, and how did you satisfy yourself that this was what happened?
Here's how I satisfy myself. His lawyer, Mesries from Chicago, one of the top lawyers in the country, emailed us and said, and we had the email. He called the repair shop. He sent us an email, or he sent the repair shop an email that he sent us right away saying, I got to get Hunter dropped these off. At the same day he talked about, he forgot to pick them up. I got to get them right away. What have you done with them? Right? That's an email. And a phone conversation he had at the repair shop. Everything about that's a lie. Okay? It's not like somebody's misreading. It's a lie. It's a lie. This repairman, when he didn't come back, it's abandoned property by law in Delaware if you don't come back in 90 days. He went to the FBI and gave them to the FBI. We got him much later. But the question for us is, why did the FBI not move on this immediately? When the FBI got it, two things would have happened. This was back in the fall or November, December 2019. Number one, Donald Trump would have never been impeached. If you get the information out of his lab, there's no impeachment trial. And therefore, we could have focused on the Chinese Communist Party plague. We could have focused on the pandemic instead of worrying about the impeachment, number one. Number two, Bernie Sanders would have been the Democratic nominee if any of this information had come out. And by the way, there's much more horrible information. There's really horrible information that's about to come out. But if any of this information had come out at the time, Joe Biden had been finished in the Democratic primary, finished. So once again, the FBI has protected the neoliberal neocon candidate. They protected Hillary Clinton in 2016 and Bernie Sanders lost. They protected Joe Biden in 2020 and Bernie Sanders lost. So it just shows you the corruption of our institutions here in the United States. It doesn't matter who you change out. They're rotten to their core. The FBI, to me, I say very simply, the President of the United States ought to call in the FBI director tomorrow into the Oval Office. And he ought to sit there with Barr on one side and Senator Johnson on the other, who ran the committee, who never got the hard drive from the FBI. He ought to ask Chris Wray about 10 questions. And if Chris Wray does not have a good reason, not an excuse, but a good reason why this wasn't given to Ron Johnson's committee immediately, why Barr didn't know about it, why even the president wasn't made aware of this, okay? Why wasn't the media contacted, right? Why wasn't the Bernie Sanders campaign contacted? If Wray doesn't have great answers for that, 1 year, basically close to a year after the FBI got it, he should be fired in the office. He should not walk out of there as FBI director. It's time now to stop playing games with these people. It's enough of these Brennans and these Clappers and these Comeys, these terrible people that work against the interests of the American people and have their own Praetorian Guard that they're going to protect these hack, corrupt politicians of both parties. Not just any party, but both parties. But both these neoliberal neocons that are Wall Street's candidates, just like Biden is and just like Hillary Clinton, they ought to be fired. He ought to be fired on the spot.
I get calls from my father to tell me that the New York Times is calling, but my old partner, Eric, who literally has done me harm for I don't know how long, is the one taking the calls because my father will not stop sending the calls to Eric. I have another New York Times reporter calling about my representation of literally, Dr. Patrick Ho, the fucking spy chief of China, who started the company that my partner, who was worth $323 billion, founded. It is now missing. The richest man in the world is missing, who was my partner. He was missing since I last saw him in his $58 million apartment and signed a $4 billion deal to build the fucking largest fucking LNG port in the world. And I am receiving calls from the Southern District of New York, from the U.S. Attorney himself. My best friend in business, Devin, has named me as a witness without telling me. in a criminal case and my father without telling me?
We just showed you the first 20 minutes of our interview a few hours ago with Tony Bobulinski, well-known international businessman who was asked by the Biden family to do business with them in China. He met with the former Vice President Joe Biden 2 separate times, and they talked about the China business deal. Now, this information has been out for several weeks. It's been in the hands of a number of different news organizations. The reason you're hearing a lot of this for the first time tonight on this show is because they have resolutely ignored it and tried to suppress the story. Joe Biden has rarely been asked about it, though there is an enormous amount of detail and documentation that no one has refuted because it's real. This topic did come up because the president pushed it at last week's presidential debate. And what was notable was that Joe Biden didn't deny any specifics about his connections to the Chinese Communist Party, his family doing business there, he himself participating in that business. Instead, Biden dismissed the entire story out of hand and suggested that Tony Bobulinski, who is a veteran, a former naval officer, was part of a Russian disinformation campaign aimed at this country. His evidence for that? Well, there wasn't any. Instead, he cited a letter from, quote, 50 former national intelligence folks, almost all of them partisans, every one of them a liar. None of them had directly assessed the information. Not one of them called Tony Bobulinski. They knew nothing. Joe Biden said that on stage. And so when we spoke to Tony Bobulinski, we asked him his reaction to that. And here's what he said. Tell me about the conversation that you had with Joe Biden. What did he say to you?
You mean the morning after he spoke?
That's right.
There was 10 people running around, getting him something to drink, and we were backstage in a cramped space, and he asked me to walk with him out to the car, and he just asked, how I did and what I thought of his speech. And I thought he did a great job in the speech. And obviously, cancer is a very serious thing that we should all be working together to solve. I just lost a sister-in-law within the last 2 weeks, sadly, to cancer. And then he just sort of asked me to keep an eye on his son and his brother. Yeah.
What do you think he meant by that?
I think he was conscious of things, and I can't speak for him. Maybe
Right.
I would love for him to go on record. As I referenced earlier, I'm only sitting here because they have not only have they not gone on record, they've denied it, and they've tarred my family name and a long history of serving this country, and have other congressmen now talking about Russian disinformation.
This whole smear on Joe Biden comes from the Kremlin.
I held a top secret clearance from the NSA and the DOE. I served this country for 4 years in one of the most elite environments in the world, Naval Nuclear Power Training Command. And to have a congressman out there speaking about Russian disinformation, or Joe Biden at a public debate referencing Russian disinformation, when he knows he sat face to face with me, that I traveled around the world with his son and his brother, to say that and associate that with my name is absolutely disgusting to me.
Did you complain about that? I mean, to suggest that you were committing treason or a part of a foreign attack on our democracy, which is how they characterized it. I mean, that's such a serious and I think unfair charge. Did you bring this up with them?
Well, in basic form, you're exactly right. They are publicly accusing me of treason right now, treating me like I'm insignificant, or the 50 years of history that my family served this country is insignificant. And that's why I'm sitting here having this. I assure you, this is the absolute last place I want to be right now, and the last thing I want to be doing right now. But I feel like I have a patriotic duty to this country and every American citizen to go on record and to find the facts for them and let them do their own work. Let them decide how they view those facts or not. But for the Biden family to deny these facts, and then not only deny them, they could have just said no comment, but they didn't say no comment. They then brought in Russian disinformation and basically associated my name with that, which is absolutely disgusting to me. And I had to go on the record. Last weekend, I was in Virginia. Sadly, my sister-in-law passed away at around, I think, 6:38 Saturday morning. That's the wife of my brother, who spent 28 years serving this country as a naval flight officer and just retired. So you can imagine me dealing with that and the tragedy of that. When I saw Adam Schiff go on record talking about Russian disinformation after this email had been posted online by the New York Post, and remember, that email was to me, from James Gilliar, right? It wasn't, I wasn't blind carboned or CC'd on that. It was to me stating that I was going to be the CEO of this enterprise. I was at the end of my rope. And so I called Rob Walker and I told him that if that statement isn't retracted by Congressman Schiff by midnight on Sunday, that I was going on record and I was disclosing all the facts to the American government, to the American citizen, and the world. I was hoping the Bidens would do the right thing or Schiff would retract his statement, but I could not allow another minute, another hour, or day for my family's name to be associated or muddied up around Russian disinformation. So even as I sit here today, I would ask the Biden family to come on record and stop using my name or associating it with Russian disinformation. It's absolutely disgusting.
So this is Rob Walker, the representative of the Biden family. I believe his wife worked for the Biden family, apparently. So you said this to him. I won't go public. I just want them to retract the accusation that I'm an instrument of Russian disinformation. What did he say?
That's correct. Rob is under a tremendous amount of stress.
Right.
Obviously, his wife and a child. And he said, listen, let me make some calls. Let me call George, who's Hunter Biden's lawyer, and see what I can do. But he sort of presented it as if that's going to be impossible for me to get done. And, I'm not naive. I know that's not impossible to do. That's a single phone call from Joe Biden to Adam Schiff saying, basically go on record and retract your statement. You got over your skis. And when I was up late that night, and when the statement wasn't retracted, come Monday morning, I was ready to go on record. And how that record was, I was willing to go in front of any senator, any congressman, the Department of Justice, the FBI, or sit here with you, Tucker, and basically provide the facts to the American people and let them make their decision. This isn't a political focus of mine. People were accusing my family of treason after I served this country and defended this country.
So the reason you wound up here in this interview, and I just want to affirm for our audience, I don't think you had any desire to do this interview.
Absolutely no desire.
Is because nobody else told your story. So were you surprised, given the trove of documents you have, given the credibility that I think is apparent that you have, that no other news organization took the time to unpack this story?
Surprised is probably an understatement of the year. Shocked, because it would be different if this was my word against Jim Biden, Hunter Biden, and Joe Biden.
Right.
That would be a very slippery slope, not something I would take the personal and family risk on it. But I've provided more documents and facts that validate times, meetings, who participated. That email to me on May 13th was generated by somebody else sent to me. It wasn't me generating. These text messages that I've provided are Hunter Biden in the first person, Jim Biden in the first person, James Gilliar in the first person, Rob Walker in the first person. It's not me generating the text messages. It's them speaking. So you can interview them. The FBI can interview them. Our government can interview them. But I was shocked that not only the media is not only discussing this, they're going to the other extreme. They're dismissing it as Russian disinformation. This country has heard enough about Russia. We went through 3 years of every day, Russia, Russia, Russia. It's just absurd. The Cold War is over.
And they're saying it about your family.
Yes.
The Biden family knew that you're going public with this. And you spoke to Rob Walker about it. Again, the self-described Biden family representative, and Biden family, meaning Joe Biden as well. What was his response when you let him know that you were going public with this?
Trying to coach me, trying to sort of say, hey, we don't want to do that. We don't want, press trucks out in front of our house. I'm going to have to move. I could lose my job. And all that, I'm not trying to cause any harm to anyone in this situation,
right,
let alone Rob Walker and his family, James Gilliar and his family. But basically, Rob's position was, if you go on record with all these facts, you'll bury all of us.
If he doesn't come out on record, I am providing the facts.
Tony, you're just going to just bury all of us, man.
What was your response to that?
I was focused on pushing these guys to do the right thing, to demonstrate an ounce of integrity in front of the American people. They all know the facts. I live the facts. And luckily for the American people, all the facts are extremely well documented. I'm irrelevant in this discussion, so I can ride off, but the American people can read these texts, listen to the recording that you just played, read the legal documents that were executed in Delaware, and they can form their own conclusion. They don't need me to form the conclusion for them.
Give us a sense of your contacts with Hunter Biden. A lot of this is complex. There's a lot that we're not, I mean, this is television, so we're not putting, everything that we have on the screen
Right.
because we can't. But for those who might suspect that you didn't really have a lot of contact with Hunter Biden, give us a sense of some of the places where you had conversations with him and over what time frame.
So obviously, as we already discussed throughout 2015 and 2016, while Joe was still the sitting vice president of the United States, these guys had been doing extensive work around the world in places like Oman, Luxembourg, Romania, that I was being made aware of, but I obviously hadn't come off the bench and agreed to be part of this.
I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt you there. Oman, Luxembourg, Romania.
Correct.
So they don't speak any of these languages. Neither one of these guys has any record of success in business. Neither one has a background in international business. Why would they be doing business in Oman, Luxembourg, and Romania?
Because they have relationships and they have the Biden name that they're able to set up meetings and get people to jump through hoops in an interest to garner favor with the sitting vice president, Joe Biden.
So it sounds like Gilliar is a legitimate business guy, someone who's fluent in the language of international
James
business.
Gilliar, served his country. He's British.
Yes.
He's traveled around the world for decades. He's a very low-profile individual, but he's sharp and he's as legitimate as they come.
Sounds it. But Hunter Biden and Jim Biden have a well-documented, decades-long record of business disasters. Did you get any sense that either one of these guys was qualified to be conducting this kind of business?
The only qualification they had was the Biden name.
But they seem to have parlayed that into quite a few deals in quite a few countries. And I interrupted you, so continue with where they were doing these deals.
Yeah, so you had asked, the extent of my communication with Hunter Biden. So when I decided to come off the bench and entertain being the CEO of Sinohawk Holdings, obviously, I was brought up to speed on the work that they had been doing in Oman, Luxembourg, France, Romania, Kazakhstan, and stuff like that, because that was all going to be integrated into Sinohawk Holdings. And so you asked to the extent that I spent time with Hunter Biden. I personally was in Bucharest, Romania, with Hunter Biden, Jim Biden, James Gilliar, Rob Walker. I was in Monaco for the annual Grand Prix there. I was supposed to sit with Hunter Biden. I met him. I met on the patio of his hotel, and I sat there and waited for 2 hours. And you can imagine how angry and I was frustrated after sitting there for 2 hours waiting for him without a text, a phone call to let me know I can't make it or I'm tied up. And in a text that I think you guys are aware of and saw, the next day he aggressively comes back at me that he couldn't attend the meeting that he himself set up. I stepped away from family and friends on the yacht that I was on with my friends to go sit with him for a couple hours. And he's effectively screaming into the phone that he could not pick up the phone and text me because he was with the Ukrainians and Mykola, the founder of Burisma, and that he was fighting for the only income he has on the Kazakhstan deal that apparently he negotiated. Now, I had no exposure to a Kazakhstan deal. I'm not aware of any of the particulars of the Kazakhstan deal. I just know for a fact there is a Kazakhstan deal because Hunter Biden in first person told me there was in the text that I think you guys have and you will show to the American people. It's not my job to determine what that deal is. I'll leave that up to the FBI or the Senate and the Congress to figure that out.
I just want to restate this. You are not a grifter. You're not someone who's selling access. You're a legitimate businessman who's done deals in a lot of different countries. So I just want you to assess once more, is there anything about Hunter Biden's personal experience, personal qualifications that would justify him doing a deal in Kazakhstan?
Absolutely nothing. The only thing that he had was the Biden family name and the fact that his father at one point obviously was a sitting vice president and potentially would run as a future president.
It sounds like a remarkably ambitious international business program they had running. He and his uncle.
Extensive.
This is a small point, but I can't get over it. So you saw a number of reporters say, again, in an effort to bat away your story, your testimony on this, that the chairman referred to in a bunch of these emails was not Joe Biden. It was, in fact, the government of China. When you see people refer to the chairman thinks this, the chairman thinks that, they're talking about China and not Joe Biden. So I want to put up on the screen. Here is a text message you received from Hunter Biden to you. Hey, Tony, I have an idea. In light of the fact that we are at an impasse of sorts and both James's lawyers and my chairman gave an emphatic no, I think we should all meet in Romania on Tuesday next week. So you're hearing reporters say that chairman was, in fact, the Chinese government. Here you have Rob Walker responding to you. Clearly there's some confusion over this, and he's saying, and I'm gonna put this on the screen now, when Hunter Biden said his chairman, he was talking about his dad.
Correct. There's two chairmen in the story. There's Chairman Yi, who was the chairman of CFC.
Yes.
In that text from Hunter Biden, he was not talking about the chairman of CFC. And what Hunter's referencing there is he spoke with his father, and his father is giving an emphatic no to the ask that I had, which was putting proper governance in place around Oneida Holdings.
So Joe Biden is vetoing your plan for putting stricter governance in the company. I mean, and it's right here in the emails.
Yeah, Tucker, I want to be very careful in front of the American people. That is not me writing that. That is not me claiming that. That is Hunter Biden writing on his own phone, typing in that I spoke with my chairman, referencing his father. If the world thinks that my chairman is not his father, then Hunter Biden would come forward and go on record and state to the world.
But you have the Biden family representatives, Rob Walker, saying right here, May 19th, no. When he said his chairman, he was talking about his dad.
Exactly.